Okay, so having editorialized in that fashion, let us get back to the main, so that we understand exactly the basis upon which we are talking, and then therefore we don't need to get sidetracked off onto what I consider irrelevant kinds of discussions. 65 million years ago, the large land masses of the Earth began to break up, and eventually forming what we call the continents of today. With 45 million years ago, there had appeared on both sides of what is now what we call the Atlantic Ocean and what is now South America and Africa, the monkey species, or the monkey order of primates. The monkey family, I should say, of the primate order. Now, we have a lot of different ways of looking at this, where the monkeys actually descended from prosimians, who were in North America, and that they evolved separately in South America and Africa, or did the South African monkeys actually in some way make the ocean voyage from Africa to South America? These are very critical issues which have not been resolved, but the reason why they are important because, again, we have to get a handle on, in looking at these questions, at just what happened where and in what sequence. And I might add, by the way, that the preponderant evidence, or the best evidence, suggests that the New World monkeys were in fact originated in Africa and got over there in some fashion that actually allowed them to transcend the Atlantic barrier. For one thing, North America and South America were not connected then. They didn't connect until about 4 million years ago. The distance between Africa and South America would have been much smaller than it is today. Not only that, but the seas would have been shallower. Still, there are problems with any interpretation. So we have two lines of thought. Either the New World monkeys derive from prosimians in North America, or they are representatives or late descendants or descendants of monkeys which originated in Africa, or what we call the Old World. This began about 45 million years ago. And the reason why we emphasize this is because this is the line that eventually leads to the apes, eventually leads to hominids, and of course to human beings today. And I think there is some value of understanding this process in its total time scale, in time and space, in order to get to understand that these things just don't happen in aliquots of tens of thousands of years or millions of years, but 20, 30, 40, 60 million years is what you need to begin to get a handle on what happened in this evolutionary process. Now, you have to understand also the world at this time. From about 45 million years when the monkeys first make their appearance to about 18 million years ago, the world was a much warmer and wetter place than it is today, which is to say that it was basically covered by large expanses of jungle, large expanses of forest that girdle essentially all the land masses of the globe, which is the reason why the primates, whether they be prosimians, and by the way, descendants of prosimians today would be animals like the lemurs and tarsiers in Madagascar. They are probably the latest or the only representation of the old prosimians that we have today. They in turn gave rise to the monkeys, evolutionary speaking, about 45 million years ago, became a very successful primate family. And the primate family is characterized by a number of characteristics. First of all, stereoscopic vision, because the two eyes are in front of the face instead of on the sides. Well-developed appendages, particularly what we call the hands and even the feet, and a long tail to allow them to live in an arboreal environment. That is, a tree or forested environment, in the canopy of the upper canopy of the forest. This was absolutely, well, this is what they were adapted to. Because the world at that time was completely covered with forests, it made sense from an evolutionary point of view, and it made them very successful. It also meant that their masticatory patterns and their dietary patterns would have been necessity leaves, vegetables, fruits. That is what's up there. That's what they would have had to adapt to. And in fact, their dental morphology, their teeth, the way their teeth are shaped in terms of flat molars, very poorly developed canines, or I should say modified canines, are adapted. In fact, the shape of the jaw is adapted to basically a vegetarian eating environment and vegetarian eating patterns, which is to say, our own jaw shape, dental morphology is also an adaptation which we have retained from those evolutionary patterns 25, 30, 40 million years ago. Is that basically we have the dentition of a vegetarian eaters. Even though we eat meat, that is not the way, that is not really what our dental morphology is best suited for at this time. Okay, the monkey family of primates also became very successful, proliferating rapidly all over the land masses of the world, which were girdled by these vast forests on both sides of what was the water barrier between Africa and the New World, or Western Hemisphere, and by 25 million years had given rise to the process of evolution of the ape family. This occurred in one place only, the Old World, Africa in particular. This meant that since this was eventually going to give rise to hominids, that the New World, or the Western Hemisphere, no longer figured in the process of human evolution. So we can just take it out of the picture for the rest of our discussion, because there were no apes then or now that were there naturally in the New World or in the Western Hemisphere, and so human evolution, such as it occurs, or hominid evolution, is confined entirely to what we call the Old World, Africa, Asia, and Europe. Now, they appear, or make their first appearance, about 25 million years BC, or BCE, or BP, I should say. BP meaning before present being 1950, 25 million years before the present era. Now, they too were very successful. They too were very well adapted to an arboreal, that is, tree environment or forested environment, the upper canopy of the worldwide forest in this hot, warm, muggy climate that girdled the entire globe. They were bigger than monkeys, probably stronger than the monkeys, maybe not quite so agile. Their facial and head morphology was different. They were certainly more intelligent. They probably had they did have, in fact, greater brain capacity, so they did represent, if you will, an evolutionary advance from the monkeys. They too were very, very successful, from 25 million years BP to 18 million years BP in this forested environment of the world. There were a dozen or more of them that evolved out of their monkey ancestors, and again, they were extremely successful, living in the upper canopy of the forest. In fact, some people have called this, quote, the age of the ape, if you will, because they were numerous, they were ubiquitous, they were widely dispersed, and they were obviously very successful. Okay. But something happened beginning about 18 million years before the present.